Hey guys, welcome to today's video. My name is Stephanie. I am a life and relationship coach. Today I want to share with you 3 really powerful things that helped me to really understand my own mental health. These were the practices that really impacted my life in such a positive way. And I believe they're going to help you as well because at the end of the day, no matter who we are and what we've gone through, it's still the same stuff. It's still the basic practices and skills that we need to learn in order to be our healthiest. First thing is detaching from thoughts. This was something that, wow, if I would have learned this when I was a child or a teenager or a young adult, it would have completely, first off, I think I would have not had to go through so much difficulty because I was basically creating my own problems, as most of us do. Detaching from thoughts is really about understanding that you have too many thoughts every single day to be consciously aware of them, but it also is about recognizing that a thought is just a thought. The only time a thought becomes real is when you put meaning to it, when you put a feeling to it. And the only way you can put a feeling to a thought is when you take a thought, you look at it, you overthink it, you just consume yourself in that thought, or like me and probably like you, where you just believe that everything that you think is real. So no matter what kind of crazy, intrusive, weird, twisted, negative, all of whatever thought that you're having, if you believe it to be real, if you believe that just because it popped up in your head that it's real, that it's going to happen, then you're going to start feeding it. And when you start feeding it, you start bringing some emotion and feeling to that feeling, meaning you're giving it conviction. And the conviction is actually allowing it to grow and to become something. Right there, that little golden nugget right there was huge for me. And I know it's huge for you to understand, okay, so really what the practice is that I have to understand that when I'm having a thought that is not making me feel good, that it's actually not real. And the only reason why it's making me not feel good is because I keep engaging in it. Now you have to really fight the addictiveness to wanting to engage with it. And this is something that when we engage in a negative thought, this is something that we are doing either habitually or just completely unconsciously. Like we're not even aware that we're actually doing it. We're just kind of asleep and we're just going off of a program. And that's kind of the slippery slope when it comes to mental health, is to be mindful or consciously aware of what it is that you're thinking and doing in every single moment is extremely hard to do. So I always tell people, look, don't set unrealistic goals. The goal is not to just constantly be aware of every single thing that you're thinking, because you're going to get drained and exhausted very easily. And we don't have that kind of time to be consciously aware of everything that we're thinking. It's impossible. But it is about being consciously aware of when you start to feel like crap. When you start to feel like crap, that's your first indication that you are engaging in a thought, whether it's fear, stress, worry, anxiety, insecurity, jealousy, something negative. You've been engaging in it for too long. It's already been happening. And now you're causing yourself to feel those things: worry, stress, fear, anxiety, jealousy, etc. And because you're starting to feel those things, you're starting to get those sensations. You're starting to get really nervous. You're starting to get anxious. You're starting to get really stressed. So that's your first indication. The little ding, ding, ding bell is going to go off. You're gonna, okay, I'm starting to feel worried, stressed, nervous, anxious, whatever that is. And then what you do is you kind of like think about, okay, well, what was I just thinking about? Like, what is the anxiety, the fear? What is the story? And then the minute the story starts to kind of like pop up in your head, it's like, okay, this is what I'm really afraid of happening. Then you immediately have to start detaching from it. And that is hard to do because you've now attached to it, which has caused that feeling of worry, stress, fear, and anxiety. So now what you kind of have to start doing, and this is really the hard part for a lot of people, and this is where they'll struggle, is you're not going to be able to just detach completely because you're emotionally invested now in the story, even though it's negative. What you're going to have to do is to start moving away from it. And like literally, when I practice this, I am backing, like I find myself just backing away a little bit, because I want to see this and I want to remember that this actually isn't real. And that's something that you have to constantly be repeating to yourself, that this isn't real. It only feels real because I've been feeding it. Once you start to kind of like move away and like actually see, okay, here's the story that I'm telling myself. What you start to do now is you just challenge it. Is this true? And again, that inner voice might say, yes, it's true. This could possibly happen. But this is where you start to bring a little bit of logic into this mental health practice and not so much emotion. Is do I actually want this to happen? And the answer obviously is no. So if I don't want to happen, then I need to start thinking about, well, what do I need to do to get myself in a different headspace rather than believing that this could actually possibly happen? Remember, everything that you've done previously was emotional. Now you're starting to be a little bit logical. And with mental health, you really have to do both. You can't just suppress emotion, and you can't be so logical that you just don't ever feel, and you can't be so stuck in your feelings that you can't logically see a situation for what it actually is. So what this is you have just been feeding a story unconsciously that has created now a feeling or an emotion inside of you, and that feeling and emotion is actually what's dictating your life, because the feeling of fear is what's stopping you from actually doing something. The next step is really strictly about logic. There's no emotion in it because you don't need to feel anything yet. You just need to start doing something. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to choose a different thought. This is where, when I talk about doing affirmations, when I talk about positive thinking, like all this stuff, that's where we're going to start utilizing all those affirmations that you've been actually listening to at night. Tell me that you're doing it. And we're going to start repeating the stories that we want to have happen, and not the stories or those worst case scenarios of what we fear could possibly happen. Because here's the thing, could what you're fearing actually happen? Of course. I mean, if it's a realistic fear, then of course it could actually happen. But if you're honest with yourself also, could what you want to have happen actually happen? Of course. So if what I want to happen could actually happen, and what I don't want to happen could actually happen, which one am I going to choose? I'm going to choose the outcome that I actually want, which means I'm going to start repeating what I want to have happen and not what I don't want to have happen. The more I keep repeating this, and the more I keep indulging in it and giving it conviction, giving it life, like really getting engaged in it. Because if I said to you, you can do it, you're amazing, that feels different than if I say, you can do it, you're amazing. Then I said it with more conviction. So it's really about having that inner conversation where you're saying something with conviction, and then you start to get momentum, where then you start to feel something. And the feeling something is when you realize, okay, that isn't making me feel good. This is making me feel good. So why wouldn't I do this practice? This is also where you start to become a little aware that you are addicted to negativity. You're addicted to woe is me, you're addicted to fear, you're addicted to intrusive thoughts, you're just addicted, you're addicted to the pain of what it is that you've always been doing. Even though it's uncomfortable, even though it makes you feel like crap, it is what is familiar. It is what you've done for a really long time, and it's what you're going to keep doing unless you kind of start practicing something different. So if you want a different outcome, we're going to practice a different skill. For me, when I understood that thoughts were really just always going to flow, I was always going to have a fear thought, worry thought, stress thought, insecurity thought. This stuff is just going to happen. You're human. It's normal to have self-doubt. It's normal to have fear. How long you engage in it is a skill. That's something that once you understand, wow, I actually have the power to go into a different direction. Wow, I actually have the power to not indulge in that. And that I'm in some way kind of addicted to doing that because that's how I was programmed. Then your life completely changes, because then you start to become more consciously aware of when you feel like crap. You start to become more inquisitive on what are the stories that are making me feel like crap. You're going to start really practicing seeing that story and not moving towards it, but actually backing away from it. This entire thing really is self-parenting, but it's also about emotional maturity. It's also about learning to do something different. So again, you can have a different outcome. When you start to really practice this, first off, you start to feel absolutely amazing. And secondly, you'll start to overcome a lot of your fears and start taking action on things in your life that you've always wanted to, because now you have kind of that cheerleader behind you. You have that person behind you that's helping you to not just engage in stories every single time you have them, or let the fear take you down the rabbit hole. You're starting to actually do things different. You start to feel more confidence, you start to feel a higher sense of self and more self-esteem, and those are things that are required in order for you to let go of any anxiety, any worry, any fear that you could possibly have towards achieving something that you want in your life. And life is always about rebuilding in the sense that you're always setting new goals for yourself, no matter what it is that you're going through. And when you start to set goals and you start to achieve little things, just like little things, then you start to gain momentum and you start going after the bigger things. You start to actually believe that you're capable of achieving those bigger things. You understand, you start really learning about how life works and goal setting works and achieving something works, and you stop looking at these bigger goals as so unrealistic. You start looking at it like, okay, it's actually just about these little tiny steps that I'm doing every single day to get me to where I want to be. That's an absolute game changer. Then you start to have more self-control over yourself when you're even dealing with someone else who's unhealthy or toxic. This is why when we talk about all of these things, this is not about, I was on the phone last night with a client and I said, she was like, I'm so glad that I learned these skills and I'm practicing this and like everything's starting to feel great. And I said, here's the thing, you will never forget this. You might put it on the shelf here and there throughout the course of your life. You might say, you know what, life's actually going pretty good and I got some momentum and everything's fine. I don't need to take this off the shelf and like really practice it. Because what's happened is you've become that person now. And it's not something that you need to consciously be practicing every single day because you are practicing it. You're unaware that you're doing it, but you know how to do these things, and life has gotten really easier for you. That's why you're not doing the homework every single day. But until you really learn those skills, yes, you have to walk on eggshells a little bit. You have to be more aware of yourself throughout every single day. And then, of course, you're going to just flow with life. And life's gonna be going great. And then you're gonna get hit a curveball. And then you'll get brought down to your knees. And then you're gonna have to practice this stuff all over again, where you do have to become more consciously aware of yourself because you're being challenged now in a different area than you were challenged before, but you still know the skill. So it'll be easier to go through any difficulty in life because you know the skill. That's really what all of this is about. This is nothing that I ever talk about is just about positive thinking, or none of this is about just learning about narcissism. Like, yes, learning about narcissism is very important, learning about codependency, learning about emotional abuse and manipulation and all those things. It is fundamental that you understand, if you are an empath, if you're highly sensitive, how to take the best care of yourself, self-love, and what that actually means. But all of those things, while they're all very important, the most important thing you will ever learn is this skill, because this skill dictates everything in your life. You guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for commenting down below, for liking and sharing, and just being such a support. I wholeheartedly cannot believe that this is my life and my job and I get to do this, and I'm so incredibly thankful that, first off, I do something that I love. I talk about something that I love, that I talk about all day every day, but that it's also helping you and impacting your life as well. So go follow me on social. Everything is linked down below. Join me also in our new membership program that we are running now here on YouTube. Again, you can actually go to the homepage and there's a little join button right next to subscribe. It is a great opportunity to get some good information and to get some perks in terms of membership, of maybe even possibly working with me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.